Hello folks and welcome MX23.3 Xfce desktop. So this is the latest image as of May 19th, 2024. It also contains some of the newer features of Thunar, the file manager, which I'll point out to you toward the latter part of this video. So what is this video about? Well, this is about your live installer, your live media for MX. What kind of tools you found on it to help you out in case things go south. Let's face it, when we install any operating system nowadays, some things, well, they sometimes don't work right. We can get other people to fix stuff, and we can also do stuff for ourselves. So I'm going to talk about some of the tools that are available for you in the MX Live version of MX23.3. You'll find the installer here, and you'll find some tools. So I'm filming entirely from MX23 Live. And I'm going to talk about some of the tools that I think every user of MX23.3 should be aware of. So again, this is the latest version as of May 19th, I believe is the update on this from 2024. Welcome folks, filming in 1920 by 1080. If you'd like to subscribe, the icon is in the corner down here with yellow brackets. I was going to close this until I looked at that. So our user for today is demo. Password is demo. The super user is root. Password is root. When you click at the MX logo, just remember if you see demo here, you're probably in live mode. And a lot of these services require passwords, which requires that demo password. All right. So let me click the tools here. We can also go to the MX menu. We can click the little gear symbol, and we can also click the shortcut. So we'll do it from here. So again, I'm filming entire from inside of the MX installer or live mode, if you want to call it that. So in no particular order, snapshot tool also can be found after you install MX and log in. It might be a good idea to make another ISO maybe for a full snapshot. That's all up to you. You can call your thing whatever. You can do it right as if you're logged in. Just follow the directions. It's pretty simple. All right, so Remaster CC, funny name, Remaster Control Center. This tool allows you to rework an ISO while running live. So I'm going to talk a little bit about persistence and not. So a lot of you folks install these live versions of Linux on 4 GB USB sticks, or maybe 8. That is not a lot of leftover storage, as one would say. Persistence has a use, but I like to use external devices, so I'll be showing an external USB stick today. And I'll also talk about partitioning stuff, just very briefly. I have full videos on some of that other stuff. All right, so snapshot also can be, this whole box can be found as soon as you log in too. All right, so in here, this is Thunar. Latest version is of 4.18.4, and it's got some bells and whistles. And more importantly, I have a demo drive, not to be confused with the demo user for today. This is requesting a password, and it normally doesn't do that because that demo drive is formatted with NTFS, which does not have permissions. And the other drive that's fully installed is this MX23 on the second partition of STA, also requesting a password. I will show you how to deal with some of that stuff, in addition to showing you some new bells and whistles in here a little bit later. And we're going to be using that tool to activate that. So I'm going to stop over and do the chroot rescue scan. So as I pointed out, there's a full installation of MX23 on STA. And what I did was I turned off the background, edit, preferences, appearance, and I cranked that up to 1 so you see a dark background. Password again is demo. So you can see that nice and highlighted in color. So this is a rescue scan, and it found a Linux system there on MX23.3, the latest version. And you can see the install date, and it's on SDA too. All right, so we'll come back to some of that in the file manager later. The disk manager, I'll just open it briefly, same password. I'm going to use this tool to activate some of that so I can see these drives in the menu. There's just some weird things that it didn't display a couple of minutes ago, which I can use that tool for that. So boot options, that's another one. Same password. And SDA2 is the only one that I found, so let's talk about that. If you are using the MX bootloader, for instance, and you're using dual boots or whatever, you may want to have some different options in this menu. You can also change the timer on that menu. So if I wanted 6 seconds instead of 8, when I hit apply, it's going to apply that to the Grand Unified Bootloader. Where? On SDA2, not on the live media. So this is applying that Grand Unified Bootloader on that device, not on my live copy. That's why I'm not bothering updating anything either, okay? Because I'm in live mode. So boot repair is another tool that is, some people cringe when they see that word GRUB, Grand Unified Bootloader. We have to sometimes install that, reinstall that, sometimes fix them. Are these kind of tools available on other Linux distros? To some degree, yes. But do they all have 100% fix rates? No. However, they can repair a lot of things. So I wanted you to be aware there's an MX boot repair tool available to you in MX Tools, sitting right here. I'm going to switch gears and close this box. Hopefully you've seen enough of that. Again, there's the passwords right here, right out of the welcome screen. I'm going to open up the menu and type in GP. Some of you folks are familiar with Gparted. Some of you not so much. Gparted does require that demo password. So a couple of toys that I have installed in here. I have an NVMe internal solid state drive. It's a little different from SDA, but it's a little faster also. And it is formatted with an NTFS file format. If you're not familiar with that, that is for Microsoft Windows. It can also be viewed on Linux. It has the label of demo, not to be confused with the demo user here today. So as long as I am not mounted, I can resize. If you see the word unmount in here, before you click that, you should unmount that if you need it to resize. So I'll give you a quick demo on this. I'm going to make half of the drive. Something else. I can create a new partition. Format it with extension 4 or something else. I can also give it a label. We'll call it demo 2 and hit add. Now I have 2 operations pending. The first operation was to resize that partition. The second was to create a new one and then call it demo if I proceed to click apply all operations. In other words, do it. I'm going to hit undo, undo, and move on. So SDA2 is the only partition right now that is bootable currently with my setup, which is right here. So SDA2, if I needed to resize this drive, would I do that while I'm logged in to my user? No, you would do it here in the live mode if you needed to resize. What is my advice whenever you resize a partition? Backup, backup, backup your personal files. All right, down over here, if we want to go from this side to this side, my junk is at the end. It's not even worth talking about. 1.3 MIB. This is in MIB, GIB, MIB formats. You can do the math online. It's what do you think it is? It's close enough. Extension 4 is on SDA2, the second partition. This is how much space it's currently consuming. And then what's in the front of this thing is SDA1, which is the EFI. So this was installed when MX was installed. It installs this small little partition. So for booting the system properly. All right, so that's FAT32 extension 4. What if I wanted to resize this? What do I need to do with that? Unmount it. You try to unmount that when you're running it live, logged in, it's not going to work for you. You need to do it here. Then you can grab a hold of this, providing you made yourself your backup of your personal files. Then you can resize these and create another partition. Okay, whatever size. You can also do the plus or minus. Okay, so again, can cause systems to fail. Just be aware of that. Backup, backup, backup. Can't say this enough. And then you can create yourself a new partition, call it what you want, give it a label, and etc. And then commit. I only have one. I'm going to undo that. So I have another device here that says ISO 9660. This is the ISO that MX Live is on, the one I'm currently filming from. It's on a rather large device. Does it have persistence? No. Am I using it for that? No. I use another device for that. ISO 9660 also can be burned onto DVDs. Last device, I have a USB stick, just called that. I could call it backup too if I want. And it's a rather large one. It's 233 GB and that's just about what you think it is. It's over 200 gigabytes. Formatted with FAT32. File allocation table 32 can be viewed not only on Linux but also on Microsoft Windows and Macs. However, it does have a limitation. A single file cannot be over 4 gigabytes. Single file, not collective. Your whole container can be larger than 4 gigabytes. Yes, that's why they make them this big. But a single file cannot be. So if I do a tape archive backup or a TAR, that TAR file has to be below 4 gigabytes for me to use that on that device, if that makes sense. You can also resize this by unmounting it. So that's Gparted. Gparted is a wonderful tool for partition editor, found on a lot of distributions. You can also install Gparted all by itself on a different ISO. You can find information on that on DistroWatch, or you can do a general search on the internet. However, you don't need to do that if you have MX. You'll have the tool already here. It's available to you anytime, as long as you throw in your live media. Let's talk about this file manager, Thunar. So Thunar has evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years. This is 4.18.4. This is the default for the Xfce desktop environment, and it has a lot of new bells and whistles that a lot of people have requested over time. So one of them is called what I call split pane, but they call this a split view. And this is fully adjustable from side to side. If you want, I'll go full screen. I'm just double clicking. That's all I'm doing here. Or I can just resize. All right, the icons are independent as far as resizing. Okay, I'm not clicking in here, by the way. I'm moving my mouse back and forth. So the behavior of this file manager, Thunar, is slightly different after you install it and logged in also. When it comes down to copying from your folder to folders, when you drag files across, it does a copy, not a transfer or a move. Unlike when you're logged in, it does that if you decide to move a file from, let's say, documents, and this will be downloads. Do I have anything in here? No. So let me borrow some files from demo. But we still have this problem to deal with, so let's address that right now. I'm going to open up MX Tools and talk about this for a second. So I'm going to activate that, and it says unmount, activate that, and activate that. So all of these say unmount, so let's go take a peek at them. So that one is mounted, that one's mounted, and stick and EFI I really don't need, but I mounted it anyways. So all I'm doing is looking at the check mark and this box down here. So if you run into that problem, here's a little tip for you. Use Disk Manager to do that with. Okay, I'm going to close that now. You saw what I was looking at earlier. When I clicked that, it was asking for a password. All right, now it's not. All right, so let's talk about the new bells and whistles. So I already mentioned that F3. F3 again is split view, and you can adjust this from side to side, whichever window you want to make bigger if you're just working with one box. Okay, you can do it my way or the system way when you come down to resizing. If you're just doing that in a hurry, I just double click on these lines. It's better than that tiny square there. All right, so I will turn off that F3 and make this jumbo. In here, under preferences, is remember view settings. It's normally off by default. When you turn this on and close this box, I may have to, let me try this out first. No, I thought I had to close and reopen, but it actually activated that setting without me closing and opening up Thunar. So it's remembering the size of the folders is what you're saying here. So if I do the demo drive, not to be confused with the demo user, I will resize that to about medium, and this is still dinky. Small, in other words. I'll make this reasonable at this point. I just wanted to let you see that you can resize them independently if you activate this setting. My behavior is single click, so I'm going to turn this off and go to my favorite setting, which is on all of my Linux distributions. It's double click for file managers. Especially when I deal with script files and I don't want them tripping. But again, I understand that is your choice. All right, so talked about that. I talked about the F3. We can talk about transferring files. We can talk about copying files. So I'm going to make, I could do this. Let me do this in two boxes, if you don't mind. I think it's easier for me to do it this way. And well, maybe enlarge that just a hair as far as the tail end is concerned. And then I'll do a Control N as in Nancy and make two boxes. All right, hopefully these are large enough for you. We'll make this one stick, and we'll resize the icons on the fly. And that one says MX23 test, and I'm going to wipe those. Those are test files, so it's currently blank. So again, we're dealing with a media demo USB stick, the demo being the name of the user, not the drive. So this is the user demo, and he currently has no files. You can see that's all blank. So I'm going to use the demo hard drive for this purpose here. So, or should I use this one here? Or we could use that one. So in either case, I will basically open up the home folder, and I have two users here. I have Mark, which is locked down, permission denied, and I have Bob. So Bob has some stuff. He's got a tar file in here. It looks like he was backing up his documents. So if I open up that tar, it's more likely in there. If you're not familiar with tar, it's not a compressed file. It's a nice container though to throw things in. Some people call it a tar ball. So tar has been around since the Unix days, kind of like me. Been around computers for over 40 years. Anywho's, moving along. So let's say I wanted to copy some files. All right, so we have Bob with some documents here. We have this USB stick, so we're dragging that across. So I'm going to take one of his files and I'm going to throw it in this user called demo here. So this is just a PDF. Then I'm going to make this one downloads, which is currently empty. Normally when you're logged in and you drag and drop a file from documents to downloads within inside of your own user, it does what? It moves the file. It does not do that here in live mode. It's making a copy. Normally when you go from your folders into a device, it's also a copy process. But in a logged in mode, you can try this. When you're moving files from documents to downloads, normally when you drag and drop, it's taking the file and cutting and pasting it, if you want to think about that process. So that would be Control X, Control C for copy, and Control V for paste. You can find these keyboard shortcuts right here. Not a mystery. Very common. Also used on Microsoft Windows. Same type of commands. All right, so in either case, I'm just talking about copying files. Now, we are dealing with MX23, and I'll reduce the size and go to the main home folder, and we got 2 users. You can see Mark here says denied. Is it impossible for me to see files on Mark's? Well, it depends on the encryption that was used. But let's say it's not encrypted. How would I view files from here? And how can I copy those onto this USB stick? Well, let's first open up the USB stick and find some space. How about if we use test 1? And we'll just delete whatever's in there. So to get access to Mark's files, you're going to do the most unorthodox thing, which is kind of nasty, but for some reason Mark can't get access to his files. But he's got the live booted media, and he would like to copy that to this USB stick. He's got some important stuff. Well, then open this up in root mode. All right, so I'll move this box over to here now. This is now in the danger zone. I am going to resize. Now you can see Mark's doesn't have an X on the file like this one does. All right, so what happens is I can see the files, but then when I put it over here, I get permission denied, because I don't have the authority to copy his files over to here until I do this. USB stick, right click, open Thunar here also. Just a little tip for you in case you ever need this. All right, USB stick, what are we dealing with? Test 1, okay. That's 1, that's 2, and we'll just do the folder and the file by itself. It's copying those. Close, close, and reopen. USB stick, right click, properties, ownership, is currently demo. Emergencies only, right? All right, just a little quick tidbit, what you can do with your file manager, just in case. So, Timeshift, you may or may not use it. It's a system restore utility, uses rsync. You will also find Timeshift on your installed media. You installed MX23, your user will also find that in their menu. If you decide to use it, this live mode does require a password. This Timeshift utility, I believe, is being maintained by Linux Mint right now. So in this case, it'll be demo. So I have 2 of these. Normally you'll have the wizard that'll start, and rsync is default. If you don't know what remote sync is, I have tons of videos on how to do backups with rsync and grsync. Rsync with script files also, if you're more into some more advanced stuff. Anywho's, normally you would just hit finish and it'll scan the drive. In this case, I'm running the live media, right? So where are these coming from? They're coming from SDA2. It's the backup utility there, because the settings are set for the location of SDA2 currently. The schedule is normally keeping 5, so I just installed this yesterday. It is not currently copying users' files. They are excluded by default. That's why when I talk about Timeshift on different videos, especially for Linux Mint, I make mention of that fact that it doesn't copy your personal folders. It's not meant to do that. It's a system restore utility, and it's named for that. Again, the maintainer, I believe, is Linux Mint. It even says so right here on GitHub. So this little logo here, if you point to it and leave your mouse cursor left on there, you'll see the O above it is on demand. That means a manual restore was done while I was logged into a user. The one that has the D is daily. That means it was an automatic, because the tool was running in the background. So it runs a service in the background, and rsync does its job. The times are incorrect on the system, so don't worry about the time frames. Okay? But you can do a restore from here while you're in your live mode. This is how you would do that if you use this tool. If you activate Timeshift while you're logged into a user and you have already used that tool, you can do the restores in here. You can also do the restores there. I would just do it in here though. This is a live mode only. You'll have a different symbol if you're logged in. It'll have a green shield on it. There's another tool that does a similar job, right? Are we familiar with this tool? I mentioned it earlier, Snapshot. To some degree, some people prefer that tool, and some people not so much. There's lots of tools available for you. I pointed out a whole bunch of stuff today. I gave you some examples of the new features with Thunar. I gave you some examples of what you can find with MX tools. I showed you the disk manager when it was misbehaving, not displaying the directories in here. You can find some activation codes in here for that. In either case, folks, thank you for watching.